everyone, and welcome back to episode 17 of Planet Zoo. So grateful to be back. This episode has been a ton of fun to build, and this has been my first episode back. So whenever that first video came out, that is when I started building this, and I just finished maybe 2 weeks ago, and I am extremely happy of how this came out. I'm excited with the direction I'm going with the zoo. And so let's dive into it. First thing I want to mention, let's get this thing turned on, is this fountain and lake area. This was my last thing that I built. Actually, let's go ahead and, let's zoom out here. We're going to talk about a lot of changes here. So we have the main entrance, and this is the aquatic area that we built last time. And the pictures you saw that this path between these two trees used to connect straight up. That used to be like all the way through. I didn't like that. I wanted it to feel more ergonomical, I guess is maybe the right word. And I thought this lake was a good way to take up a lot of space, but also add a really nice entrance to my zoo and have that entrance area. So this was the last thing that I built, and it I think came together really quickly, but it's a natural pond with a fountain in the middle, and yeah, so we'll talk about this more in episode 18 because I finished what is going to go right here. And we'll talk a lot more about that in episode 18. So make sure you come back for episode 18, and we'll talk about this a lot more. So because of that, one of the things I did was I put this path around to get guests going through. The other thing I've learned since doing the Asian Encounter, episode so long ago, let's get away from these peafowl, is zoos don't typically dead end a path. So if you remember, this used to come in dead end here, and there was an exhibit here, and then the rhino exhibit was right here. Well, I needed to fix that. So anyway, I needed to fix this dead end. So I thought bringing this path around was a good way to connect it in. I expanded the Rhino Habitat, which meant I had to rework the Indian peafowl exhibit. So I've added a couple animals. The peafowl are one. I redid their habitat. Kind of same style as before. And then the other one, oh, it's moving quick, is the binturong. This was a Southeast Asia. You can see it in there. A little tiny exhibit. I thought this would be more of like an exhibit animal instead of a habitat animal. But we'll go in here. You can see one. They have quite the climbing structure in here. I like these guys. They remind me of like a wolverine. But maybe their family. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, just a small little enclosure for them. And I also, in the process, reworked the black bear exhibit because I don't know if something changed in one of the updates since I did this, but they were way under. That is extremely loud in my right ear. They were really under size for there wasn't enough room for them to move around. So I changed it up, and I think it looks a lot better. Kept the basic structure, and yeah, that's all I really did to that. But the main portion of the episode, or the main thing that I did, is before there used to be a parking lot here, and you could see this in those images. So I want to go ahead and take a deep dive into this, okay? So we're down here at ground level. These are our saltwater crocodiles, and I really like this exhibit, or habitat. This was actually going to be, I actually built this in another zoo that heavily inspired by Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle. And because I had recently visited there in March when I built that habitat for that zoo, but it wasn't really going anywhere, so I decided I'm going to bring it into Union County Zoo. And that's exactly what I did. So I copied the blueprint over, and I plopped it in here, and then I reworked its backstage, but all the trees and everything else are from that other zoo. So I don't remember exactly how many we have, but they have a nice little bridge here that the guest can come and walk over with an animal talk, and then they have a deep lagoon over here that they hang out quite a bit in. And yeah, I think this looks really well, or like really, really good. And then let's go ahead and jump over to our other animal wall, and we'll talk about them. So this is the Braid's tapir, I think is what these are. And this was another import from that other zoo that I was building. I love this exhibit. I think this really influenced a lot of different, or habitat. I think this influenced a lot of how my zoo is going to start going, and you'll see this going forward. So this is from the guest perspective right here, and I love this, like being able to look in. This is one-way glass into their den, and then over here, this glass to look into the actual open air habitat. One of the things I learned when going to the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle was that glass is used a whole lot more to give a perspective into it. Instead of using like fencing, they use glass, and I noticed that quite a bit. Obviously, we still had to put fencing in, and so like they had this nice little water area that I had to put fencing in for. And then on the back side, to cover up backstage, I put this nice little planter with bamboo. And yeah, I think I really like it. A lot of different unique aspects to this habitat. But I think the thing that I'm most proud about is actually this building that I've just been completely ignoring. So let's go ahead and jump down in there, and we'll talk about it from the rhinos coming up to the tapirs. Okay, so we've jumped down into the rhino habitat. Like I said, I completely reworked this habitat. Oh, he's down here playing in the food. One of the things that, if you remember before, there was the pool about right in this area, and then there was a building that they could go in to get out of like the snow and the rain. Watching, I think it's Ruble Trillion's recent Tivoli Zoo. He was kind of showing me, I kind of opened my eyes to a perspective I've never really even thought about. Oh, he's in here just drinking away. About how, in reality, keepers and animals would never be in the same space. And so I wanted a spot that the keepers could get the rhinos into. They could close the gates, and then the keepers could come and bring out and service the outside exhibit. So that's exactly what these are. These are literally just cages, and he said in his episode that a lot of the zoos are just cages, like the backstage of it. So that's what I did. I just built cages. They do go in here into these pins, and then the keeper can actually get out and in through right here because of the game mechanics. But in reality, they would come and sit in here. They would bring the rhinos into these. They would close the gates because these would be like on automatic tracks. They would close the gates. The keepers would come out, service the exhibit, and then they would go back in, open the gates, and let them out. So I'm going to be doing this a lot more. You'll see these styles a lot more, and you can even, like when I'm showing this building off, you'll see what I mean too. The other thing is I wanted to make sure that they could get the rhinos in and out of this building. So they have this as well, this little garage door that accesses the backstage. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to the alligator or the saltwater crocodiles, and we'll see what their backstage looks like. Okay, so we've jumped over to the saltwater crocodiles now, and this one is along that same concept. They would be able to be invited in here on the saltwater crocodiles. They would shut this gate, they would come out, and I think I really like this thing that I built here. So this would be like their habitat cameras that they could see where the crocodiles are, and then they would push the gates to do the different mechanisms, is what all these buttons are for. They also needed a spot for them to get the alligator or the crocodiles in and out, so they have a much shorter gate, and then they could get them out of the building through there with like a protected doorway and everything. The other thing is I wanted the keepers to be able to see the crocodiles while they're in here. That was something else I noticed, that they could see into the pen, I guess you could say, to figure out how to service them best. And then the veterinary clinic can also see in here as well. I think there's only one crocodile that can't actually get through this little gate. All the rest of them can, and they do. Like during when it snows, they actually do go in here and they hang out here. So yeah, I've really liked this. Let's go look at the tapirs and then we'll wrap this episode up, okay? Okay, so now we're here in the tapirs as one is leaving here for us. Same design as the rhinos. They can come in here. They also have hoses. I forgot to put hoses in those other ones. But they can come and clean all this out, and there's actually drains in the backs of these ones as well, so they could get all the hay out, redo all the hay. This one, so all of them also have this, I would assume they would close this as they're servicing the inside here. And then the keepers could come in and service this, clean this whole building out, and then bring them in here, and then go out and service the outside portion of this exhibit. Same thing here, is they have the habitat cameras, and they could do all of their different switches and everything for them. So and then they obviously have this door for them to get out as well. And then that's where we're at. So, as we come up here. I have one more animal to show, and we're going to go ahead and jump over there now. I actually have two things to show. So, I reworked, this is the elephant exhibit, African elephants. I needed to rework their backs, like their building, to make it more functional with what is this habitat. So I reworked it. There's no cages in this one. This one will get reworked again shortly, and I'll talk about that at a later episode of kind of where my plans are going. But I needed to rework this, and so I built them a new one, and I really like this design. They have a super tall door to get them in and out. So yeah. And I don't really have much to say about this one other than that, because there's no like cages, no keeper protection system or anything like that. So let us go and jump over to the other animal I added, which was chimpanzees. Way back when, I had an ape house, and chimpanzees were probably one of my favorite animals in the game. And so it was making me really sad that I didn't have any chimpanzees. And so this habitat was born into the Africa area. I wanted to do something a lot like, what is it? The Smithsonian Zoo in Washington, D.C., where the apes actually, or the chimpanzees could actually cross over the path. And I laid it all out, and it was way too big of a habitat for them. So I redid it and kind of reutilized the towers within the habitat itself. Tons of climbing. They actually do go up here, and they'll sit up here a lot. I love the elevation changes that this habitat does. Again, here comes that glass work in here, so that they don't have that fence in between them. I know there's a lot of fencing in this habitat, but like I think this habitat looks really good. This one, I'm not exactly sure what the backstages of chimpanzee houses look like. So they have a couple up here, and then they have a really high one up here that they could look out and sleep up there as well. So just wanted to give them as much climbing as possible. And yeah, they really like it. And then obviously the fence and everything is all custom. And yeah, I really like this exhibit or habitat. I think it plays well into the Africa area, and I think it really adds that cap on here as well. So, okay, let's finish out this video. Oh, I keep on forgetting to mention, I did a lot of stuff in episode 17 here. So you can see how this path would have come right here. I wanted to try to actually put hippos in this exhibit, so I expanded it. The wall used to come right here, and I just expanded this, which meant I could expand this, and I kind of had to rework all of the terrain and everything right here and the path. I think it looks a lot better now, but yeah, just wanted to mention that. But to wrap this episode up finally, I am really happy where this South American jungle theme is going. Episode 18, I kind of really, there's only this space right here that is left. I'm kind of filling everything else around here, and I'm going to do my first implied habitat next time, a bird show. So I would stick around 2 weeks. The bird show is going to be coming out, and that goes right here. And go really heavy into theming on this next episode. I want to pull out my book here, because the other thing I want to talk about is how I'm wrapping this series up. So this episode comes out on today. In 2 weeks, episode 18 with the bird show is coming out. Episode 19 is going to be a moose habitat right here, moose and beaver habitat. And then episode 20 is I'm going to finish this little space right here with some of the Africa DLC animals. And then December 28th is going to be my wrap-up end episode for this series. And I'm super excited for that, to be able to showcase everything that I've built. We shouldn't have any green space or anything like that, and we'll go from there. So, yes, come back in 2 weeks. We'll have a bird show for you, and thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit that like button if you liked the video. Any comments or suggestions down below, and then also don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're not already. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, see ya.